Okay, my apologies. Apparently, Reed and I misspoke on our 6 and 6:30s here, so he's on time and we're on time, according to what we knew at the time. So I'll call the meeting to order and ask that we notice the Open Meeting Act and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And with that, then, I would also take roll call with James.
Here.
Larry.
Here.
Isla. Yes. And
Here.
okay, thank you. And with that, this is all yours, Reed. This will go across.
I'll go across.
I don't know how to linear.
Yeah, first of all, I want to apologize again. The first notice, April 1, was 6:30, and that's the one I picked up. So you changed it for till 6 o'clock, so I do apologize. What I thought tonight, again, my name is Reed Miller from Miller Associates. Wanted to talk a little bit about your upcoming sewer project. I don't know how many of you have been following it in the papers and whatever, but I thought I'd give a little history on it and then go through some options that you have. I guess we're here to gather input, so I welcome any kind of questions that you have. So don't be afraid to interrupt me. But I'd like to start by, can you see this in the back at all? Not very well. Can you? You might have to move up a little bit if you want to. But Crofton signed a consent order prior to July 17. But what that consent order said was July 1st of 17, you would select a wastewater option. And the council pretty much did that. They selected the mechanical plant at that time. Then in October of 19, you're supposed to have your design done, your plans and specifications all done. On April of 2020, which is about a year ago, you're supposed to start construction. And then July of 22, you're supposed to be done with construction. So we're a little bit behind on the schedule, but I wanted everybody to know why we're doing this. It's mandated basically, and you signed a contract with it's now the Nebraska Department of Energy and Environment that you'd upgrade your wastewater. A little bit of history. In September of 15, you had an engineer do a report. And this is how we kind of got involved in this a little bit, but you had an engineer do a report, and they said your average daily flow was 71,000 gallons a day. Another engineer in 2017 used 46,000 gallons per day as the average daily flow. And a few months ago when we looked at that, I was very concerned because that's a big difference. It's almost 50% more. And so, I hate to say this, but one of these have to be wrong. So the real bad part about a mechanical plant is you need to have the flows correct. The pumps, the tankage, all those things, the flows need to be correct. Because you either over-design it or under-design it. A lagoon, or a waste stabilization pond, as I'd rather call it, is a little more forgiving because one day I can pump 70,000 into it, and the next day I can pump 50,000 into it, and then if it's really rainy, I can pump 100,000 into it. And as long as you have enough capacity, it's pretty forgiving. vary a lot. So we had those two, and I guess we wrote a letter, and that's kind of why I'm here now. We wanted to look at that. That's going to be probably one of the first things we look at. We haven't done an in-depth study in this. We're just getting a preliminary, but we kind of need to make a choice on what process we're going to do. And I can provide copies of all this. I will, to the clerk or whatever. And if you want to request these from the clerk, I've got them. We asked for some data. So the city of Crofton provided us some winter water usage. And the years get a little screwed up on it because we used December, January, and February. So like we would use December of 18, January of 19, and February of 19. So those years are kind of combined, but when we looked at your winter water usage, which when you think about it, most of it goes down the drain in the winter. You don't water your yards, you don't do anything. We came up with 64,900 from your records, from your winter water usage. So then we tried to look at your wastewater treatment plant, and again, we'll do a much more detailed job of this, but I wanted to give you some numbers so you can kind of see where I'm going. But if we look at your wastewater now in the winter, and we did January and February of 2020, you were 70,100. So if I was going to look at just this data, I'd say you're more around that 70,000 than you are the 46,000. So if you would have designed that treatment plant for 46,000, I think you would have had some challenges. I think it would have been too small. Go over that one next, yes. So we're looking at two different options. We're looking at going back, and the two main options, I should say, there's all kinds of them, but the two main options that seem to be feasible is go back and rebuild your plant and do some modifications. Some of the modifications that they proposed, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's kind of like a racetrack. And the water goes around in a circle. One of the modifications the previous engineer proposed was to cut the racetrack down, make it shorter. When you think about that, that's all well and fine, but how do you build that? Well, you're going to bypass. You're going to pump around that. You're going to have to go out and dig it up. You're going to have to form concrete. You're going to have some months doing that. So we looked at their cost of what they had proposed, and I was very concerned that their costs were not high enough. And I have some more documentation on that. But so then we talked about a lagoon. And I know everybody has stigma about a lagoon, but here's Crofton, of course, and here are 1 mile radiuses. So this is 1 mile and then 2 mile radius. This shows, the yellow shows that your groundwater is probably greater than 20 feet. Now this is just an area map from the government, if you want to think about that, but they're saying that everything yellow is probably 20 foot of water depth. So if we looked for a lagoon site, we want to be at least 4 to 5 foot above the groundwater. The state says you got to be 4 foot above the groundwater. We'd like to have it a little higher than that, but you have sites within 2 miles of lagoons. So I didn't know that, yeah, nobody's probably ever been over that. Let me get this next one up here. Any questions right now? Got anything? Okay. I shouldn't. Here's that winter water flow. I was going to go over that just a little bit. Here's your wastewater 3 months for 3 years. Plotted, those 3 dots are 3 months, 3 different months. and that black line is 70,000. So, to me, we're really not talking 46,000. We had one reading down there, but we're talking more 70. But I visually wanted to show you that. I missed that. I guess it always gets down to what does everything cost, and I apologize, these are too small. But we look at an annual equivalent cost. So I went back to the 15 report, and I took their mechanical plant, what they said they were going to do, and I increased the cost by 3% a year. And I used their cost. I guess, just to give you an example, a month ago, we did a trickling filter arm. That's an assembly that goes around the top and it skims, and there's a scraper on the bottom. We bid one in Lexington, materials only. And I gotta look at these so I can tell you right. It was $138,000. In the budget that the previous people had, they had $150,000. But that was to install it. And a rule of thumb is if you're going to spend $138 on materials, it'll probably cost you $138 to install it. So, even with all that said, I don't think their numbers are correct, the mechanical plant, but I used them. If we did the 3% inflation, and I know you all can't see that, but to upgrade your oxidation ditch.
Can you read them out loud?
I will do that. To do the construction, it was $3,141,000.
And the construction of redoing the plant or?
Redoing the plant.
Redoing the plant. Okay.
Redoing the plant. Okay, so, and we said your land cost is zero.
Right.
And this includes everything.
Right.
It includes engineering, some interim financing, yeah, everything. Your annual payment to pay that back, and this is over 40 years, okay, is $135,915 a year.
What is the interest on that?
We use 3%. Okay. And then we got some numbers. In the study, they had operation and maintenance of $120,000. But when I look at yours, at your records, your operation and maintenance as a non-fiscal person is about $50,000. You're spending about $50,000 a year. Some years you're higher because you buy a piece of equipment. Some years you're lower, or you have to do a sewer project. But you're spending about $50,000. So if you're paying $135,000 for a payment, and you're paying $50,000 a year for maintenance, you're at $185,900 every year to pay that off.
What's the maximum capacity operation of that rebuild unit?
We would bump that up a little bit. We would take your population projections. You're showing a nominal increase, what I saw, and we would go to the council and we would say, do you want 10% extra? What do you want extra?
But right now, what is its capacity?
This is that 71,000.
71,000.
Yeah.
That's what our capacity of our unit is right now.
I can't tell you that. I'm sorry. Your capacity should be big more than that. And one of the things we gotta make it smaller because I guess it's aerating too much and you're getting populations. Yes.
Originally, when they built that, we had a population of 998. And when they built it, my boss was head of it. It was built to be 35% bigger than what we needed. So that'll tell you about where our capacity is.
Okay, so
I think now per family, we probably use more water than we did in those days, but we're about 750, 760, so we're way down.
okay. Yeah, so that's why we wanted to cut that racetrack down or why the last, I should say why the last engineers think about making less capacity. Very seldom we ever make the treatment plant smaller, but that's what they had, so. But right now, I was doing the 71,000. We can make that easier just by extending it 2 or 3 feet, and it's not gonna change the price any, I don't think. Yeah. The problem that I see with that, and one of the reasons why we're here, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not a big backer of this oxidation ditch, okay? And hopefully when we get through this, you'll understand why I'm not a big backer of this. But we're going to put in $3 million into a plant that's 56 years old. And this price, this 50,000, has got to go up. Everything's got to get tired. Your tanks, your tankage, your concrete, it's going to get tired. It's a very harsh climate for the stuff. So in 20 years from now, we'll probably have to do this again for something. Okay? Just a thought. If I go over here on the complete retention pond, and what that is all the water is run into the pond, and we rely on seepage and evaporation. Nothing runs out of it. So you have no standards to meet when you discharge to the creek, because you don't discharge. So we have to have it big enough that we evaporate and we seep the right amount every year. And some years it's going to evaporate more, and some years it's going to seep more. I mean, that's just the weather, but we kind of plan on that, so we evaporate, seep. That initial cost is $3,526,000. Okay, which is a little bit higher. It's about $100,000 difference. Those costs are based on a bid 2 months ago in Clearwater, Nebraska. So it's kind of up north here. Clearwater was a little bit smaller lagoon. It's a little bit different. They had 2 miles of pipe on theirs. I assumed a mile of pipe in this estimate. And I also assumed 4 pounds of bentonite every square foot. I don't know what your soils are. That's going to be part of the study. We'll figure that out. But that's what I assumed in this cost estimate.
So you're gonna line the bottom with bentonite then?
Yeah, mix it in with the I'm gonna say sand. I think, yeah.
You got a pretty good chance of hitting the sand here.
Yeah. That's why we assume the bentonite, because you're just gonna have an additive to seal it up. Before we'd ever do that, before we ever pick a site, we'll go take some soil samples, have them tested, and yeah, some sites will be better than others. Yeah. In the report, they wanted 70 acres of land. We don't need 70 acres of land. We need 23 acres. And so I put $10,000 an acre. Totally arbitrary. I'm sure you don't want to pay that much, okay? But, and again, we would not take farm ground if we didn't have to, or unless we had a willing seller. But, so I threw in $230,000 for land. So to pay those two off, it's $30,000 more a year. It's $162,000 versus $135,000 a year to pay that off. However, your operation and maintenance is almost nil. You don't have samples. You have to go out and mow it maybe once, maybe twice a year, and you're done. There's no, and this includes a new lift station to pump it out there. Let me back up. I put $350,000 in for a new lift station to pump it to a new site. because we'll probably need more
How far
head.
can they pump? Can they pump more than a mile, 2 miles, a lift station?
In Clearwater, we're pumping 2 miles.
2 miles at the lift station?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And I know Clearwater is right on the Elkhorn River,
Yep.
and their lagoon, the last couple floods have been underwater, you couldn't even see the top of it. And so we had to move it
Sure.
because of standards.
Sure.
So we went south. We couldn't really go north because of the river crossing and the highway crossing, and so we went south. So when all's said and done, if you put that 15,000 on there, you're paying $177,000 a year versus 185 a year.
And that's considered a land at 10,000 an acre.
Yeah. Can you buy land at 10,000
I
dollars?
would hope it'd be a lot less than that.
I was kind of hoping too. I'm a Platte Valley guy, so the farmers are getting 10, 12,000 bucks. But I throw this means nothing, you guys. But whatever we're wrong here, we're probably wrong on here. It's a comparison of current prices right now. South Sioux City just let about a $28 million improvement to their wastewater treatment plant. I think the engineer's estimate was 8,000 under, 8,000, 8 million underneath the estimate, over the estimate, excuse me, back up. Their estimate was 28 million, and the bids came in 8 million higher. Okay? And I don't know if any of you are around ordering stuff right now, but like on our lift stations, we're waiting weeks and weeks and weeks for pumps. Materials, all the material prices have went up. Yeah, so I don't know where we're going. But again, if this one's gonna go up 10%, then this one's gonna go up 10%, probably. There's different materials. So, yes, sir, I'm sorry, I saw you.
How do you deal with Clearwater's high water problem? I mean, they can't even dig a basement in
You know, we went in and lined all the sewers. They had 2-foot clay, kind of like you guys have. We went in and we put lining in all the sewers to try to cut down the water, because it's exactly what you're saying. Clearwater's flow was more than 71,000 gallons a day. And so we went in and lined it. I think we got it down to like 65,000 a day. No, we went south up a hill. We pump it up a hill and then we discharge it. Yeah, that's the only way we could do it. Because that's what I was saying, we went south 2 miles because it's so low. Yeah. When I went to Clearwater 15 years ago, I thought they really had a heavy rain because the ditches were full, but that's because it was groundwater. Yeah, they have lots of groundwater. So, if you look at this chart, you can kind of see the trends. The oxidation ditch remodel is the top line, and the green line is the waste stabilization pond. And you can kind of see, after 40 years, how much difference there is of cost. And the real main kicker is that $50,000. And we did not inflate that 50. I don't think in 40 years you'll be running that plant for 50,000. It'll be more. Your labor's going to go up, your power's going to go up, your maintenance is going to go up. Your mowing costs will go up here. You have testing costs here. You really don't have testing costs there. If we do a full retention pond and don't run any out of the pond. So that's why I'm here, as I want everybody to know what facts we know. We're going to kind of do a little mini study and try to get better tightness on the flows. Maybe look at 3 or 4 sites and get some soil samples and see how much bentonite we have to seal it up, so we can refine those costs. But that's where we're kind of headed. Now, if you don't want a lagoon, then you need to get to your board members and we need to talk about that. But we're happy to go back and do the remodel on your plant. But I think it's my job to try to get you the best product for the lowest money. And so that's why I'm here.
On that retention plan, how many years can you go before you have to start pumping the sludge out of that?
You know, and I'll have two comments, yeah. 50 years, if it's residential. If you had a big meat packer in town or a big dairy in town, that changes everything, okay? But as I would say, a municipal waste, years and years and years. The time it gets in, when the waste organics go in there and the bacteria gets eaten and stuff, you'll have a mound right where it comes in, and you'll have a bunch of sludge on the banks when the wind blows it. But the rest of it will be fine. As long as, yeah, like Ravenna, Nebraska had a cheese plant, and in about 10 years they filled it. Then we got rid of the cheese plant. But, yes.
I've been asked, what about smell?
Okay, yep.
It's gonna be a
Your wind is north and south, and that's a good question. Your wind is north and south. I would not want to build it north or south of the community. I'd want to go east or west. Okay? There's two ways to design a lagoon, basically. You design it by how much waste organics go into it, called loading, or you design it by hydraulically, how much water goes into it. We would not design yours by loading. Yours would be designed by water. And so you if you think about that, if I have 1 pound of waste in 100 gallons, or I have 1 pound of waste in 1,000 gallons, it's getting pretty dilute, okay? So a good design lagoon on hydraulics probably won't smell except 2 days a year. One in the spring and one in the fall.
What days?
What's that?
What days? I want to make sure I'm not here.
Okay, yeah. But if we put it here, it's not going to bother because the wind's going to blow it, and you'll never know it's there. You'll never know it's there, and especially with domestic waste. Yeah. I can give you 10 examples. You drive down the interstate or drive along the highway and you don't even know the lagoon's there. But when water gets to be 4 degrees centigrade, it's heaviest. So when you have a big pond, it's called pond overturn or lake overturn. When the water on top gets to be 4 degrees, it's heavier than the water on the bottom. And so the water does this. And then some of the bottom stuff comes up, and that's where you get the odor. But as big as this lagoon's going to be, I don't think you'll have very much odor at all. Because you have the 71,000 gallon approximately design criteria. We're not designing for organic loading. We're designing for flow. And yours is going to be very dilute.
So the groundwater in the L is 20 foot below the surface.
It's
I believe it's 20 foot below the surface.
20 foot.
And so this pond thing is how deep? Is it 15 foot and then you have 5 foot and the pond is 15
No,
foot deep?
state only let us go like 5 foot deep. If we can go deeper in the last cell or the final. Primaries can only be like 5 foot. The other ones are 6 to 8 foot. But when you really think about it, it doesn't do you any good because we're either seeping it or we're evaporating it. So depth really doesn't do anything. It's the surface area of it, square footage of the pond. Yes?
So if I remember right, somebody can help me remember, when the other engineer was talking about a lagoon, they talked about that we'd have to get rid of some of this, like with an irrigation unit, and find a farmer to put that on, land to put it on, but we wouldn't do that with this kind of a lagoon?
No, you wouldn't have to.
But you
And
could.
the difference is what?
The lagoon would be bigger. The lagoon's bigger. If you have a lagoon that you irrigate out of, which is the same thing, it's smaller. And that's the advantage. Now, if we have a willing farmer, that's fine, they'll take it. But the problem that you have is when it's, in 2019, when you had all the water and you're full, what farmer wants that water?
What would happen if we had that happen with this system, all the water?
It's big enough that it holds the water.
Your chances of an irrigation in this area is pretty nil. There's no
Okay.
water for it.
Okay. Okay. Well, to me, and then if you irrigate, then you need somebody to run the pumps, you need power out of the lagoon, you need all these things.
Well, that's what was presented.
Yeah, I understand, no. It is, and that's why I said there's other options.
Yeah,
But
and
to me,
not that
these are
that's a
the-
better thing, I just wanted to clarify.
No,
because-
that's good. No, I want your, yeah, but that's the difference. You'd have a pump out there, you pump it to hopefully a farmer, and you take the water. You have to have a signed up, I won't call it lease, agreement, that the farmer will take that water every year, no matter what. The state will require you to do that. Because really, you know, if you think about your lagoon, when it's raining an extra 6 inches a year, your lagoon's gonna be fuller. And so you need to get rid of the water.
But
'Cause your
this
seed-
won't ever get full.
Oh, it'll get full. Yeah, it'll get full. But some years it might be down to 4 foot. The next year it might be up to 5.5 foot.
But it'll never get so full that it will.
Well, I can't ever say that,
Oh,
never,
okay.
okay?
I'm just asking
Yeah.
questions.
No, that's fine. You know, you get a 20-inch rain, you might have to dump it someplace. Yeah, nothing's infallible, but we'll have 3 foot of freeboard on it,
Which is what?
which is 3 foot of more space you can fill it up in.
Oh.
We'll design it for, let's say we design for a 5 foot depth, we're gonna build the walls at 8 foot. So you could take it up another 2 foot, and those are bigger feet because the walls are like this. Yeah, you almost have 60-70% more capacity if you ever had to. If you ever had to.
Put that in a tangible number, like a foot is how many gallons about?
I should be able to say that. Is it 560,000 gallons in an acre foot? I don't know if we have any farmers here. Or is it 360,000? Oh, we got a guy with back, yeah. So,
The pond itself is gonna be 23 acres.
How many gallons in an acre foot?
we'll go find
One
out.
acre foot is equal
No,
to
the pond itself is 16, but we have you buying 23.
325,893 liquid gallons.
325,000.
Okay, 325.
50 gallons.
Yep. So if we could go up 2 feet, we'd have 650,000 gallons in 1 acre, and you have to take that times 60. That's a lot of water. It's a lot of water, yeah. So it could take some variances. It could really take some variances.
Do we know, are there any farmers willing to sell the land around here? Have we asked anybody?
We have not, as far as us, or I don't think, I'm going to speak for the trustees right now. I think this is just a new idea.
Okay.
They haven't decided on going lagoon or go back to the original, but that's what this meeting's about, to get some input, let them think about this. I'm a different look than the last guys, okay? I've done that. I should have maybe said that. Miller Associates, we're about a 70-man engineering firm. We serve about over 100 communities. I've done a lot of lagoons. I've done a lot of communities twice because I've been around so long, but they've grown and we've added on cells. So, like, we'll build it big enough, but let's say you had a boom and you had 100 people move into town. If we have a little bit more land, then we go out and we put another cell on. It's pretty simple. Put a pipe through and away you go.
Pond.
You can't do that with a mechanical plant. You really can't do that very easy.
There are differences in the process of doing this in county-wise, whether we go east or west.
No, no. You know, it'd be great if we had somebody right here and say, hey, yeah. I would look for non-agricultural land. And then we'd go take samples, and we'd take 4 or 5, and then we get, what I always recommend to the trustees is get a purchase agreement. Let us take a sample for $500, and if we want to purchase your land, we'll purchase it for $1,000 an acre. I'm just picking numbers. Okay, $1,000 an acre. And then we send the samples in. I send the samples in. Then they're not public record. We go in executive session, we look at it, and then I make a recommendation based on this and this and this and this. I think we should go there. And then you guys decide for sure.
Would you not want to know before you make a decision whether you're gonna have a lagoon or the mechanical plant, that there will be land available and how much it will cost? Because that's gonna change.
I think that's what's part of this study is to go take some samples and.
Before you decide.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But a year ago, the lagoon was not even in discussion. So we weren't looking for property owners.
I think if we go out and you're talking to some person about buying 23 acres, they're gonna want some justification as to the smell. I know if I was out here, I got around 6 miles north, I would sure wanna be guaranteed that I'm not gonna smell this thing all day long.
The state's requirement for a lagoon, their written requirement for a lagoon from a residential is 200 feet, which is half a block, roughly. We always try to use at least 1,000 foot or 1,200 foot, use a quarter of a mile. You don't, yeah. But I can take you to lagoons all over, and people, a properly designed municipal lagoon, you got 2 days a year, and it's not bad. It's not like like you're pumping out a septic tank. It's not like that.
There's a lot of these guys that are sitting here who do a lot of traveling, and I do a lot of travel north, south, and east and west. There's a lot of lagoons out there, and it's amazing. And I don't think there's going to be a big problem.
We're doing a $20 million treatment plant in Kearney, Nebraska. If we had to build a lagoon there, it'd be so big. You know, we'd have wave action and all kinds of stuff. But I want to say, any community probably under 1,500, y'all are really looking at a lagoon.
So how do we do this with our existing plant? Because obviously, if we're going to remodel it, what do we do wastewater-wise? Well, we're remodeling because we're remodeling the structure that's already being used while we're remodeling. So what's the time frame of that versus the lagoon as far as starting construction?
A lagoon would take you, well, normally it would take you about 3 to 4 months. But I'm afraid the lift station right now might take you 6 months to get the pumps in.
Like bicycle works.
Yeah, like it, okay. Yeah, there's no parts out there. But I can't imagine on a treatment plant, remodel the parts. I mean, we had these bids going in this other community a year ago, and all the vendors knew we were coming with it. And, so we felt like we got some pretty good prices, but I would be afraid if we did it again. They were going to put a new headworks into your treatment plant. That's where the initially comes in, and you're going to put a screen, get the big chunks. The screen comes up and dumps it, and then you haul these things off. They had estimated $240,000 to put the screen in and buy the screen. The bid that we let a month ago, the screen alone was $237,000. Just a screen. So, you know, I kind of have a hard time with these costs. I'm sorry I didn't make these bigger. But I have a hard time with these costs because I'm just afraid the lagoon costs, or I'm sorry, the oxidation costs bump up. Earth moving will probably bump up a little bit. Diesel prices going up, those kind of things. So
You said we had to have pumps on this lagoon. Are we sure we're gonna get the pumps if we can't get them for the mechanical? How long is it gonna be a stagnant tank for a pump to get the one that goes out, wherever?
it'd be just as long to,
So the factor is, we're still gonna have pumps on both.
yeah.
Not on the lagoon, you don't have pumps in the lagoon.
We gotta pump it out.
I think we want to put you in a new lift station.
Yeah, but that's here, oh, I see what you mean, but not at the lagoon.
No.
You still gotta have a
You
pump.
gotta have a pump to get it there.
Yes, that's right.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
that's
why we're
fine.
up on pumps on
Right.
mechanical, it's gonna be held up on a job on the
Yeah.
lagoon just as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it gonna take, I mean, capacity, what size of pump do we need? Is there two of them running? Is there one of them, big one running, or what's it?
What we have in here, and we'd have to go over all that. I mean, we got a lot of things to discuss if you want to go that way. We put duplex pumps in, 2 pumps,
They work,
and they'd alternate.
alternate work.
Yep. And if this one didn't go, or if it filled up so high, then both of them would run. We'd have a generator there because we got to get it out of town. You know, if you lose power, we want to pump that, still want to keep pumping.
So there is some maintenance that's gotta be checked on the lagoon as well as the mechanical.
Yes, we would have
And it's
controls.
just like mowing, you said lagoon, you just gotta mow the grass and you can walk away.
Yep, we got 15,000 in to do that. I don't know how much it costs to mow.
Well.
Couple
you're gonna
thousand
have to
bucks.
Make sure that things are working out there, so you
Yep.
gotta make trips
Yep.
out there all the time just as well as the mechanical.
We would, on that lift station, we would have controls that the operator would call him on his phone. They're pretty simple right now with the controls and technology. Yes, that's what,
So he would know what pump was cycling and 2 pump for cycling.
you can go as fancy as you want. You can read the elevation of the lift station, all those things cost money, but, yeah. That's why we put the 15 in.
You said the backup generator on the pumps that go out to the lagoon, correct?
Yes.
Is that something that we're gonna have to, you know, pay enough one to carry that thing? Is that gonna be a stall
On site.
same thing?
Well, we should talk about, do you want one on wheels to drag around to your other lift stations? Do you want a generator at each lift station? I don't know what you want right now, but we put a permanent one at this site. It would start every month. Normally, that's what we do. We start it every month. If it didn't start, the operator would get a warning. I think you can notify up to 5 people. Yeah,
So the lift station don't run daily?
pardon me.
They don't run daily, the lift station?
Yes, yes,
Oh.
it runs all the time. If
Okay.
it fills up, there's kind of, if you think about floats,
Just like a, anything,
like a sump pump.
like a sump.
Yep, only it's a little more, you got, yep,
And the one going
It's
on
like the one down by my place.
It fills up and it kicks up.
That runs on a daily basis.
the lagoon one.
Lagoon, taking stuff out.
It'll run more than once a day.
Right, so you got the same amount of capacity going into the mechanical as the one going into the.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. Whatever we pump, you have to pump to either one of them.
the cost of running the pumps is gonna be basically the same kilowatts or whatever, how many hours you gotta run it, it's gonna keep running just like.
Absolutely.
On both of them.
On both of them. That cost will be equal. And you're already doing that now. You're running 1 pump or 2 pumps, whatever kicks on to run that, yeah. Yes, that would be the same. Basically, yeah, only the one we put in will be all new pumps, all new this, all new that.
There'll be 2 more lagoons on each lift station.
Yeah, well, and if you put new ones in at the treatment plant, you want 2 for sure. You always want that backup, and you want each pump to pump the total flow. Because if a pump goes down, you want to be able, the other pump to run. And run all your flow.
So there's no mechanical, no electrical stuff out at the site wherever this lagoon is?
No.
There's nothing?
Nothing. Nope. We'll have some concrete rams, if you want to think about going in the lagoon with foot markers on it, so the operator can see how deep it is, whether he diverts to this cell or this
Do
cell.
you gotta travel out there every day to check that out?
Oh, I'd say every 2 weeks, every month. There's so much water in a foot that you don't really have to worry about it. The biggest worry you'd have is a lift station. The best lift station is no lift station. I'll stand up here and say that right now. But no matter what you do, you're gonna have a lift station to pump it up either to the treatment plant or pump it up to the lagoon. We have a grinder or something on this one, so whatever went through that grinder was small enough to go through the pump, which wouldn't clog up your force main. Okay, so if a 2x4 came down there, and I know that sounds silly, but yeah, if the grinder pump doesn't grind it up, it's not going to go down the pipe.
Bottom line is, we need to look for land to get bought.
I think it's a better decision. I'm biased towards that, but
I mean, it is. You'd be foolish not to go with the lagoon.
Just what I've seen tonight, your lagoon is the best buy right now. If you buy the land, it's right.
well, that's the purpose of this meeting, is get input.
So when you build that lagoon, say it's a mile or 2 miles out here, do you take into consideration the size of the pipe that you use to pump the water out to the, I deal a lot with irrigation. And
A 6-inch pipe or an 8-inch pipe, the horsepower makes a big difference, doesn't it? Yep, absolutely, absolutely. But it all goes back to that flow of 71,000 gallons. How much are we gonna pump out there? That's the key of this whole project, is how much flow do you really have? And I think we can get a pretty good handle on that from the water, the winter water usage. And I think if we really go through your records and look at that, we do a 5 or 7 year, I mean, we're just doing a quick scan, okay? But I wanted to see if I felt good with the 46,000 gallons a day or the 71,000 gallons a day. It's closer to the 70,000 gallons a day. I truly believe that from your water records. Yes,
Does your firm help with financing
we will help you get grants.
to get grants?
Yeah, to do this project, we have to find you some grants or loans and low interest. Now, right now, and I don't think we'd be ready for this, but right now, DEE has 0% loan.
For how long? 40 years?
I think 30. I think you can stretch yours out 30. We were using Farmers Home for a year, and they're usually about 2.5%, 3%. Yeah, and I mentioned, Lexington, we're doing a $10 million treatment plant right now. It saved them, in 20 years, it saved them $2 million in interest. $2 million it saved them, with 0% interest. So,
That's better than a grant with 2%.
well,
I mean,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. But what I saw in the correspondence was they didn't give you a small towns grant or anything when they made the grant offer from before. But USDA never gave you a grant, did they? Okay. There's three main grant things, and I'm not the grant expert, okay, but I have people in my office that do this every day, but there is a CDBG Community Block Development Grant. There is a revolving loan grant by the state of Nebraska in water and wastewater. And then there's USDA rural water. And what you do is you send your proposal into them, they look at it, and then they send you back an offer. You don't have to accept it, but I guess you take the best offer. Who gives you the most money and is a grant? Maybe nobody does. Who gives you the best interest rate?
You guys take care of that.
We submit all that paperwork for you. Yes, we do. Yep. Yep. We serve a lot of small communities, and I found over the years, you don't build anything without money. and so if you help people get the money, and it's feasible for them, then then you get projects that they need. Yeah, yeah. And that's why I started out, is you need this project because you agreed that you'd do it, and you're not making your standards. The other thing I want to say, and I didn't say that, is you have a standard to discharge to the river right now. It goes through the mechanical plant, and it goes out to the river. What I've seen in the last 40 years is every 5 years that standard gets tighter and tighter and tighter. Your ammonia is about 8 or 9. Next time it'll be 4. And then the next time it'll be 1. And your plant won't make it. And that's why I said then we're going to turn around and do this again. That's my concern in 20 years. This one, we have no water quality. We're not discharging. So I feel safer with this for you.
Is your total cost for the lagoon include all of your engineering costs?
Yes. Yes, we
Everything,
threw
just
a
all-
percentage in cost. We got engineering and construction. I've got geotechnical engineering, staking, an environment, a SWIP, there's this pollution prevention plan. We threw in some money for interim financing, like you went to the bank and borrowed money until you got your loan. Those items. I threw in some money for legal and fiscal and administrative. And then there's some money in there for post-construction. The state will make you do some stuff after a year in operation.
Well, the reason I ask is we've spent $134,000 on engineering right now, and we have nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like, are we gonna be here in another 5 years where we are today? What's gonna guarantee that this gets done?
Council members.
Can I
What
add something to
what
that?
is the pros and cons? And you're a smart man, you know there's pros and cons of everything. What's the bad things of the lagoon? You told us the bad things about the mechanical.
Okay.
So now, what do you know about the lagoon being on the bad side of it that could go wrong, that you've seen go wrong if you had as many years as you got?
Okay. Some of the things that I've seen in the lagoon is sometimes people don't want to put rock on the banks. Riprap. And if you're going to do it, you want to do it right. Okay? I've seen them try putting membranes in them. And I don't know if any of you ever seen that, but we call them whales. And the membrane will float up in the middle. And it's a mess. It's a mess. There's things you can do wrong in the lagoon. The banks can erode away if you don't put that riprap on correctly. If you don't pack the banks really good. If you don't get a good grass to grow on them. There's no moving parts to them.
Now, besides the money situation, what's the pros on mechanical? We got the groundwork already there.
Yeah.
We're not starting from
Nope.
dirt and starting to build a brand new one. So
That's-
now what's the pros on a mechanical without the dollar figures?
Oh, okay. Well,
What-
a mechanical plant, you can add on to it. If you have a change in treatment requirements, you can add another unit to it. What that unit is, I don't know. But if you have ammonia, we can put a ammonia removal facility on it. Once we build that lagoon, it's set.
The laws ain't gonna change it. We gotta do something completely different.
I
That's
have
the
no
last
idea.
law that we're looking at, correct?
Yeah. In 40 years, the lagoon, full retention lagoon has not changed. In 40 years, mechanical plant has gotten tighter and tighter and tighter because they're concerned about the waters of Nebraska.
May I ask then, because it's a retention, the water never leaves it, so you don't have to worry about the regulations that change for the...
That is correct.
Is that the...
That is correct. That's the advantage of it. Yeah. Yeah. The water either seeps away or it's evaporated. So we don't have testing. And if they change the ammonia down to 1, we don't care. So,
I'd like to add at this point too, just for information purposes, that one of the reasons on the original plan was USDA refused to finance us for a long time because they wanted the lagoon. That was part of the hang-up. And I'd also like to say about the financing of what we paid the other company, that's not just a loss, so let's just clarify that. So they gave all of their records to them to use and whatever is, that will be a thing to settle.
There's gotta be a reason why you see a lot of dudes out there, guys, you drive around the country. Gotta be a reason why you're seeing a lot of them.
When you're talking about this lagoon like that, are you figuring in the cost of electricity it takes, I mean, approximately to pump the water to that lagoon? And I know you can't give it,
No.
it's a mile or 3 miles, it's a hell of a difference, you know.
yeah, we've got, yeah,
The other thing that, because,
If you go 5 miles, let's say you can't
Okay,
find it, let's
okay.
go 5 miles.
yep,
Okay, your pump to put in is a maximum of 2.5 miles. You put a lift station in on that end to take the rest away, it's just one pump on this end that takes it up.
I have to answer that with 2 answers, okay? If the land's relatively the same elevation, well, you know, or within 100 foot or something, you could do it with 1 pump. If you, yeah, even if you go down, that pump doesn't see going down. That pump only sees from the water surface to the wet well. So you can go up and down all you want in here, okay? But if you get too high, then you might have to have another booster pump.
But that 5 miles, there's probably about 6 people that own ground. Each one's gonna have to sign off or buy a piece that they can go through that, correct?
Well, we try to go down a county road and see if we can work with the county and get right away. It'd be my first option, so we didn't have to do that. I would hate to have to buy easements.
Would we go out extra miles if we could go straight across? I mean, I'm just asking.
No, I understand.
And you go, let's say the straight line is the shortest distance, but we gotta go through 6 people, or otherwise you go to the county road, it's 10 miles that way and 10 miles back. You know, the distance straight is gonna be the same, but going that way, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. That'd be an economic decision. How much would those people charge you for easements? Or would they give you an easement?
But that's another thing.
Yeah. Would they give you an easement, or would it be better to go out and around?
That still isn't in that cost of that.
No, I went a mile.
You just-
I think we can get within a mile. Yeah. Now,
can I add something?
Yes.
In our earlier conversation, just so everybody understands, these won't all be new lift stations. We have 3 lift stations here now. And if I remember correctly, you said those could be used, if we had to add something, we could, but what we have now is usable.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
So it's not like we're building a whole new.
No.
And the pipe we have now is usable. It's just,
Whatever projects you do, while we're in town, we'd like to look at those other lift stations and see if you need any improvements. You might as well put it in this project. There's no sense
right.
doing a brand new project, either treatment plant or lagoon, and then having a lift station that's,
Well, we got 3 lift stations in town. So if you take those 3 that we have and pump it into one, and that takes it out to the lagoon, you can't have 3 of them going out. Just 3 of them got to come to one spot and take it, correct?
yeah. And do you
All
have,
goes into the main, though, right? Just wherever it is, it goes into the main.
yeah. And when we try to grab that, do the 2 go into one lift station?
2 or 3, whatever, however it goes in.
Okay, we'd look at that, but yeah, you get the combined flow. And I'll just give you, for instance, and I don't know where your lift stations are yet, but I would go, in the worst case, I'd go to the treatment plant, where it's all coming into the plant, I put a lift station there, and
That's where we
That's
have.
right.
That's where we have.
Yeah, that's what I would
But
do.
that, say the motors on the other 3, we're gonna have to replace those, same thing. If you're gonna put this new one out there, we gotta put 3 new pumps or 6 new pumps in because they gotta work 2 of them, correct? On each lift station?
No, that's what I was saying, is if you have a lift station here, and you have a lift station here, and they're pumping to this lift station, these 2 will pump just like they always do.
But what about these 2 existing ones? We're gonna have
Well, these 2 are existing.
They're good?
I don't know if they're good.
That's what I'm asking.
Well, but no matter what project you do, you'd have to do those 2 lift stations. We should look at those 2. I don't know what shape they're in exactly, but we want to look at that while we're doing it. But whether you do treatment plant or lagoon, we need to look at those 2 lift stations. They shouldn't, if they're pumping all right, they shouldn't have to be any bigger. Their heads are all set up, their capacity, but if they're not keeping up, then we put a bigger pump in. But that's a problem you have right now, already, if you have it.
I got a question for Cheryl. Can the board vote to get on the road and get it checked?
They can if they want to.
You know,
I mean, basically what we have to decide is whether we want, and that's the big decision, what do we want, a mechanical plant or a lagoon? Because we can't afford to do the engineering for both and then decide.
I'm gonna make a motion, we go with Lagoon.
Motion by James to go with the lagoon, do I have a second? Second by Isla, vote by Bob Evans,
Yes.
Larry Fites,
Yes. James
Murphy,
Yes.
and Isla.
Yes.
If the motion is carried, we will be designing a
Get it
lagoon.
going.
go to work.
Thank
So
you.
what's our projection now? We still can't have a completion date of 2022, that's not.
That's gonna be pretty tight. It's gonna be pretty tight to get that done. We called the gentleman ahead of permits, his name is Merle Anderson, okay? And what he wanted from us, we're gonna ask for an extension, something reasonable here, rather than crash everything and, we're going to, he wanted 2 things. He wanted a new schedule, which we'll bring up to you and have you guys approve. And he wanted to know what, if you're going lagoon or if you're going treatment plant or something else.
If we have unforeseen land issues, whatever.
The thing is, I was on the board when Kirk and Michaels was here, and they gave us some guidance, just like what you got there. How close are you gonna stay to them, because last time we got,
I know you did.
and we're gonna have to have some kind of guarantee that we're gonna stay within our reasoning date.
You know, when engineers do a project like that, it hurts us all.
Well, I understand that.
Okay,
My business too.
And that's why I think that we want to do the project well enough, you'll hire us for the next job. Okay, so when we give you a schedule, we're going to do everything possible to stick to it. And if there's something that we don't stick to it, then it's going to be in your control, like purchasing land. You know, do you need a year for that?
We have to purchase this land.
That's a big
or-
part of it.
No, you would do the soil
get working
testing
on
to
that.
make
We do the
sure-
soil testing and then we make a recommendation. And then your attorney would have to get involved with a purchase agreement, those kind of things. Yeah, we don't purchase the land. But before all that gets done, we gotta get you some funding.
Yes.
That's why we need that option.
Yeah, that's,
Yes.
That's why we need the option on the ground. Okay, here's an option. If we go ahead with this land, we'll buy it for $1,000 an acre.
so they might approach several people with that option. Here's,
So what if we can't, you just went out 1 mile? Let's say if we can't find anybody in 1 mile. I'm not
Okay.
saying there ain't people out there.
Nope.
The corn's going up, people are gonna see the cash crop right there.
Yep, and crops up a little better.
That's a big issue around here, because it's, farming is a corn
Yep.
crop area.
Yep, it's,
So we have to go out 5 miles. So them numbers could change because of the stuff that we're gonna have. to
But
do.
if
Yes.
we go, like you said earlier, non-agricultural land,
Well,
non-crop land.
I think we'll go non-agricultural. Now, just to give it perspective though, we used 189,000 for our pipe cost for a mile. So if you had to go 2 miles, it'd be another $200,000. And I truly believe in 2 miles, we can find somebody.
Since you said that, what size pipe are you using? I'm just.
We use 6 for the 1 mile, but if you went 2 miles, probably do 8.
That's right.
Probably.
The reason I'm saying this is we're involved with an irrigation unit where we're pumping out the lake. We gotta go 208 feet straight up, and we go 1.5 miles south. We're pumping 850 gallons a minute. At the pump, we're running 165 to 167 pounds of pressure because we gotta get it up there. We run not quite 4 gallons an hour running that machine. And that's why, and we're running 8-inch pipe. And the reason they went 8-inch pipe was to get rid of the friction loss.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm asking you this.
Yeah.
My real feeling is 6 inches a little small.
Yeah, yeah. If we go a mile, I think we'll be okay because we're not gonna, I'm assuming we won't have the heads you have.
Well, you won't, but you still got, you got lost with it.
Yeah.
The more gallons you put, the more friction you're gonna have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 5 miles is $1 million with the 8-inch pipe.
That's a worst case.
Worst case.
If,
That poster you had up with the dollars on there,
yes,
put that up there again. for me.
sure.
My question is, are those solid numbers, or are we gonna get a surprise down the line? If we stay within this mile that you got
So,
scheduled?
this is based off the Clearwater bid 2 months ago. I used all the prices on that Clearwater bid.
Do they change like lumber business and, I'm in the lumber business too? Do they change overnight? I mean.
Oh, everything's changing. I'm telling you right now.
What cushion do we have in there to keep our numbers pretty close to what we got?
I can't tell you what the bids are gonna be in 2 years from now.
The only thing that's fair is that whatever you do over there is gonna do the same thing over on the other.
Yeah.
If we have to rebuild something, our costs are gonna go up
too.
proportionally on both,
Yeah.
right? Except the mile, the extra
You
5
can
miles.
see we're,
Right.
we don't want to catch any surprises. like we
Yeah.
have.
I understand
I mean,
that.
we're very leery. mean,
I know you are. You've been
I'm-
burnt. I know you have. I understand that. I understand. Yeah.
So what happens to the old, I mean, I'm concerned, what happens to our old system after we switch over, flip the magic switch and we're shooting out to the lagoon? Just
You could,
fish and bottom
yeah,
scrap, I don't.
basically.
Make it into
Okay.
You can either leave it
I don't want
or you can demo it. The state will make you cut the concrete structures off. If you demo it, you gotta cut them off 3 foot below the ground, for sure, and then fill them with dirt. We did not put that in here for right now. Yeah. Now, I don't know in 2 years if the prices will go down. Maybe the interest rate will be at 10% and the contractors will be begging for work. I don't know. It's really a difficult time right now.
But the neat thing is that 0% loan.
If we can get it.
Work with that.
Yeah, 0% loan would help us.
And then if you can get the construction loan on that.
The question I have is, when are we gonna get solid numbers that we know that, I mean, when we get done with the project, is then we're gonna know it, or are we gonna try to know before we get started what our numbers are?
Well,
gonna be?
we'll redo the cost estimate when we figure out when the land is, how many miles it is.
And you'll come to the board and present us?
I will be here more than you want me to be
I
here.
mean,
I'm seriously,
I
I
understand, but I'd like to have the board all be aware of what's going on, because a lot of times we get questions, we don't see the results.
yeah. I want to say that, I don't know how often your last couple engineers come, but I bet you a lot of money I'll be here a lot more than they were, both of them. Because I can communicate better this way than if I call you or whatever. Now, the other thing I'm gonna say is, we don't charge for phone calls. You got a question, I don't know how you wanna do this, if you wanna go through the operator, you wanna go through the chairman or the mayor, call us if you got questions or whatever. I'm dead serious about that. We're used to working, I'm from Pilgrim, Nebraska, okay? My uncle, yeah, don't hold that against me, okay? But my uncle was a mayor. We had a little one-horse up and back aisle grocery store. My dad and my uncle were in business together. And my uncle was mayor for 20 years.
Through the tornado.
Well, no, what, I'm talking way back, yeah. My grandma was a Pilgrim, okay? So we had the general store there for years and years and years. But I watched my uncle, and I think that's how I kind of got into this. The engineer would come from Omaha, and he'd come in and he'd tell my uncle something, and then he wouldn't even go to the meeting. And then my uncle would kind of complain about that. So I really think, you know, we'll be here. Yeah, we'll be here and try to answer your questions and try to put you at ease. But I can't guarantee this price, and I can't guarantee that price right now. Can't do it.
The delays on the pumps are gonna probably be the biggest factor we're gonna have.
In a lagoon, yes. Yes. Because,
Even on the other one.
well, truck and filter arm, you have big mechanical equipment in there, the grinder or the screen.
But you're gonna have to have a grinder on the lagoon, you said.
Well, yeah, no, but I said grinder, the screen to pull the solids out. It's, you know, it'll be 20, 25 feet long, made out of stainless steel, That thing will be a long time delivery too. I mean, there's more mechanical equipment here.
And it's just gonna be a seamless transition. The average consumer won't know the difference.
Poof. You won't know the difference.
The nice thing about the lagoon, too, you might point out, is that that can be being built while we're still using the other.
Yes,
We would have to,
We don't have phasing, like on that treatment plant, if we put a new screen in, a new screen in, we got to divert the flow pump around. And a contractor's gonna get paid pump around. So his diesel costs can go up, all those things go up every time he has to pump that water.
These pumps, are we gonna have 3-phase or single phase, or what are we gonna do? I mean, do we have to have a whole new line, the power company's gotta be involved? If we're gonna run a bigger pump, take it out 3-4 miles or 2 miles, the power company's gonna have to be aware of what's going on, correct?
Yeah, and we have to figure out where to put the lift station, so I prefer 3-phase, without a doubt for pumps. There's just no question.
Efficiency.
You got the 3 legs, and I'm no electrical guy, but every time I do a single-phase pump, I get in trouble. So if at all possible, on the main and pump station in town, I'd like to have a 3-phase.
The one that we have in town, change it.
Yeah,
That's where the big pump is gonna take
yeah,
off.
yeah. I definitely want to have that 3-phase if we can do
Do we
it.
have to reconstruct that pump house, or can we use what's there?
Oh, I think we might be able to use what's there. That's where you're going to pay me to come in and,
Well, I'm just asking if we're not getting surprised and said, hey, we gotta have a bigger pump house now.
well, if we don't use that pump house, what I have in here is, we're going to go out and drill a pit. And we're going to put pumps in there. It's going to be a submersible one, and you pull the pumps up on a chain, you don't go down the bottom. And you're probably better off than going out there and trying to rebuild that one. And I call it a doghouse on top. You put your valves and everything on top.
It is.
Yeah. And I'll bring in some pictures and stuff once we get into this, so you guys can kind of see it. You can tell me, oh, we don't like that, or you like that. I mean, yeah,
Go find us some land.
yeah. Well, we'll go out with your operator, and we're gonna take some samples out of some county road ditches close to some property lines. Because they should be about the same soil, I would think. And then we're gonna plot that, and then we'll go in executive session, I'll show you where those are at and which one's the best.
You're gonna go east or west, okay, because there's construction gonna be going north on 21, which I don't know if that, unless if your plans down the road, that'll be done this summer.
I would go east or west for the wind. And we'll plot the houses and make sure where we're going.
I know about you 2 days from being a fisherman, and when the water turns over.
Yeah, okay.
Pond.
Yeah. And normally that's not too bad a smell.
So you don't actually negotiate buying land?
No, that's one
up
thing
to
we
the
don't
board.
do. That's one thing we don't do.
Okay.
No, because it's your property.
Right. You just
Yeah.
suggest the best?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if you'll have your attorney do that, or,
We'll send Larry.
We'll send Larry.
All right. I ended up with nobody's ground.
we might be flat for 10 miles.
We gotta go to some deer, cattle ranch or someplace out that way.
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. You good?
I'll say.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Motion to adjourn?
I would like to thank our presenter tonight, Reed, thank you very
And I apologize again for being late. I'm sorry.
I know exactly how that happened. I said 6:30 on what you looked at. Somebody emailed or whatever said, yeah, we'll see you at